BIOS. Right? So in this topic, we'll see about the BIOS, what's the meaning of BIOS and what is the responsibility of BIOS. So first thing, what is BIOS? Right? So here you can see BIOS means basic input output system. Right? And it's the software stored on a small memory chip on the motherboard. And which memory chip? That is ROM, as we discussed. Right? It is stored in ROM. The BIOS is a firmware. We will also discuss what the meaning of firmware, but for now, BIOS firmware is non-volatile, means it's a permanent, meaning that its settings are saved and recoverable even after power has been removed from the device. Means if power will be removed, after that you can also recover the setting, means the setting will not delay. But without BIOS, the PC operating system cannot communicate with the hardware. As we discussed, the BIOS is used to communicate your operating system with the hardware, right? Means your operating system will communicate with the hardware using BIOS. So if your system has not any BIOS, so your operating system will not move, will not start because it will not find any hardware. And sometimes referred to as the system BIOS, this BIOS chip, this ROM chip also known as system BIOS, ROM BIOS, PC BIOS also. Now, BIOS is a firmware. Firmware means what? So firmware is a software that is embedded in a piece of hardware, or simply we can say software for the hardware. Means if any software is available in category of firmware, firmware is the category of software. So that means that software uh, means can place only in specific hardware. You can't place them in every hardware. Like as we discussed. Suppose if you want to place if you have music file, if you have data file, or if you have any other types of data, then you can copy paste that data in any type of memory. Like it can be your hard disk, it can be SSD, it can be SSD, it can be your flash drive. You can place it. But in firmware means you can place this firmware, you can place this BIOS in only ROM. You can't store this BIOS on any other memory like hard disk, SSD. You can't store. You can only store that in your ROM, right? So that this BIOS is known as firmware, right? So from BIOS means what? BIOS is used to interact your operating system with the hardware. Now, is that clear for everyone?
Yes, Vijay.
Else standard?
Understood, Vijay.
Here we have some BIOS vendors. And BIOS vendors means American Megatrend, Inside Software Corp, Nanjing Biosoft, Philips Technology, Dell Incorporation, Lenovo, Packardwell, Avast Software. These are some vendors and these are some manufacturers. If you want to use identify the BIOS chip on your motherboard, so you can identify by these names because BIOS chip or ROM chip also looking like the same ICs. So there is multiple ICs looking like the same. So if you want to identify that, so you can identify by the vendor name. Right there, function of BIOS is what is the use of
The
BIOS.
use of bio.
Right. So in function you can see first is post, as we also discussed. Post means power on self-test. So firstly, when you turn on your system, that time this BIOS will perform the post and it will test the computer hardware and make sure no error exists before loading the operating system. If there is any issue with your hardware, so it will show you the error and it will show you like keyboard is not available. And if you will see, so in this screen you can see this the power on self-test screen. And in this screen, you can see this type of screen like here we have this 10 chipware virus on guard version 1 and memory was like okay. So this chip is not available in this motherboard. So that's why it is showing there. So it is asking for press del to enter setup if you want to set anything or alt F2 to enter AWS flash. So if you want to flash your BIOS, so you can use this. So it is looking like this power on self test. So same thing if you have not keyboard or any other device or hard disk not available in your motherboard. in your system. So that time it will show you this type of screen. So this is called post. Bootstrap loader, second function. So after performing post, it will perform this bootstrap loader. So what it will do, the role of the bootstrap loader is to load an operating system from an storage device. So BIOS will try to search, try to find the operating system in your storage device. Like if you are using hard disk, so in hard disk partition, because in hard disk we created the partition. In partitions, it will try to search, is there any operating system available? Suppose our third partition has operating system, Windows 10. So it will find that and it will load that. And then you will get the login prompt. Next is setup utility program. So setup utility program is it is configuration program that allow you to configure hardware settings, including system settings such as password, time, and date. So setup utility program is what? If I will show you, so this is BIOS setup utility program. So here you can view all the settings available. Like if you will see here, this American Megatrends BIOS has one AMD notch which available on motherboard and the ROM version and this the memory 4 GB of RAM available, one keyboard, one mouse, one hard disk, CD-ROM, two more hard disk available there. SATA ports there is available, capable but disable, these disable, this is working, this DMA mode. So auto detect USB mask storage device, also USB device available. So everything you can see on this setup utility program which hardware is available on your system. Next is BIOS driver. BIOS driver means what? BIOS driver means where you can set up anything. If you want to configure anything on your BIOS, so you have to need this BIOS driver. So BIOS driver are the collection of programs stored in one or more EEPROM or EPROM kit, depend on the computer design, which type of ROM available on your motherboard. So BIOS driver is looking like this. This is BIOS driver. Here you can see the option. If you want to configure anything on your BIOS, so you can use this. Like if you want to set the system time, so we have the option system time and date. If you want to, means we have primary master slabs, means if this is the ATA type hard disk. So if you want to configure anything, now it is not available, so you can see that. Or if you want to disable that, you can also disable that. We have some more tabs available: advanced, security, boot, exit. So here we have some more options available. So if you want to configure anything on that option, so you can use these tabs. Right. So this is called BIOS driver. So these are some functions of BIOS. Now just let me know if any doubt on any point. Is that clear for everyone? Yes. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
As standard?
Yes.
Yes. Is that clear?
Clear, Vijay?
Here 21 candidates are connected, but I got response from only one or two candidates. Yes, everyone. If you are not available, just let me know. I will mark you absent.
No, sir, we are here.
Okay, so is that clear?
Yes.
Clear, Vijay.
Yes, Vijay.
Okay, perfect. Next is accessing the BIOS. How we can access the BIOS driver? This prompt. If you want to access this prompt on your laptop, on your desktop, on any system, so we have some keys. So to access the BIOS driver, the keys depend on the manufacturer. Like if you are using Acer, is Acer laptop or desktop. So in that case, we have to enter the setup. We have this key F2 or delete. In some laptops, it is delete. In Asus, that is F2. But depending on your model, it might be delete, it might be insert key, or less commonly F10 on. Right? Dell system. On newer Dell computers, try to F2 key while you see the Dell logo. HP system, F10 or S12. On some HP computers, F1, F2, F6, F11 can be also. And on HP tablet, it is F10 or F12. On Sony, on Sony Bio model, F2 or F3, you will get, or but you can also try F1 on some models. On Toshiba, this is F2, and other candidates include F1, SKF, Toshiba EQ model as F12 also. Lenovo, on Lenovo F1, F2, you can use this key, right? So these are some keys by which you can access the BIOS drive. And if you want to configure anything, so you can configure anything out there. The next is dual BIOS. Dual BIOS means what? A dual BIOS is any computer motherboard that contain a main BIOS and backup BIOS. This type of setup can help a motherboard recover from any problem encountered during a BIOS update. So suppose if your BIOS will corrupt by any issue. So in that case, if you have the backup BIOS, so you can use your motherboard using backup BIOS, and then if your BIOS is double EPROM, stored in double EPROM, so you can replace that BIOS also. You can update or upgrade BIOS also in dual BIOS case. Where you can see in this motherboard, in this picture, we have this dual BIOS, this first BIOS and this second BIOS. Right now, next is types of boot mode. This is very important, and in most of cases, you will find this type of problem or this type of things on your organization also. Types of boot mode in BIOS. Right. Types of boot mode means what? Boot mode, if we, I will explain what is the meaning of boot. So boot means what? When you turn on your machine, when you turn on your computer, then what will happen? As we discussed, firstly it will perform post, right? Then it will perform boot,
Bootstrap loader.
right? Boot step loader. So by boot step loader, it will search your operating system on your storage device, and if it will search, so it will load. Right. So this process means from post to this bootstrap loader to find your operating system and start to load. This process is called boot, or we can say booting time or booting process also we can say. Right. So in BIOS we have two types of boot mode, and that boot mode will decide that which type of operating system you can use, which type of storage device you can use, which type of partition you can create, how many partition you can create. Everything will decide by this boot mode, this legacy UEFI. So now understand about that means what's the meaning of legacy and UEFI and which mode we have to use and why. So before understanding this, we have one more thing. Firstly, we have to understand that and then we will discuss this legacy and UEFI. So the next is partition schema. Right now understand that what's the meaning of this. Partition schemas means what? If I will give you one example, suppose we have this hard disk, this hard. This is my raw hard disk. Raw means nothing is there. Means any partition is not created, any data is not placed there, any file system is not assigned there, any partition schema is not assigned. Means this is raw disk. Anything is not. So if you want to use this hard disk, if you want to use, so firstly we have to assign the partition schema. Partition schemas. Partition schemas, we can say it's like a layout of your partition, which will decide means how many partition and which type of partition you can create. This is called partition schema. This is same like that. If I will compare with one more example, suppose if I have this space, there's a space and I want to build my house there. I want to build my house. Right. So this is my raw space. Raw space is called like a plot. And if you understand this word, plot word. So this is my raw space, and if I want to use this raw space, so firstly what I will do, I will create the foundation. Foundation means what? We have multiple way for the foundation. For that, I will create one architecture. I will create architecture, and by this architecture, I will define that. Suppose I want one bedroom, right? One kitchen, one guest room, one study room, and some space, free space. I want. So this is my architecture, and same thing I can change also. If I want, suppose I want a space for uh, means office space. For office space, what I can do? Suppose I want some labs. This is my lab. This is my computer lab. This is my second computer lab, and there are some uh, cabin area. Here we have one more cabin area. Here we have the restroom. So we have multiple things. We can define that. So this is a different architecture. This is a different layout. And here you can see uh, in this means house structure, we have the bedroom, guest room means different things. And in this business architecture, we have the labs, we have the means cabin area, we have the space. So we have different things. Same thing we can do if I want to uh, build some shop there. Means I want some shop, so I can create also shop. I want three shop there, one, two, okay, four shop there, and I want four shop on other side. So this is a different architecture. So if I want this business architecture, so what I will do, I will create the architecture of that, and then I will create the foundation, right? And after that, after creating the foundation, I will start to create the wall, right? And then by this wall, I will create this building. I will build this building, right? This is called means architecture in this form. But if you will compare with this hard disk, so the same thing is, the same architecture is this partition schema. Means partition schema will decide that, means how many partition you can create, which type of partition you can create, and what will be the size of that partition. The maximum size, what will be that. Everything will decided by this partition schema, right? So we have two types of partition schemas available. Number one is MBR. Number second is GPT. Right? Number one is MBR. Number second is GPT. So we have two types of partition scheme. Now understand that thing. Means what is the mean of MBR and GPT, and which partition schema we have to use. So in MBR, suppose if I will use MBR, so in MBR we have two types of partition. Right? We have two types of partition. Partition is like means your room, your space for which you occupied that space. Like if I want that things for my house, so I will occupy that space for bedroom, for guest room, for study room. And if I want that for business, so I will occupy that for my labs, for my cabin area, for that. So the same thing is there. Partition means partition is like similar that how much space I want and how much partition I want, where I want to place the data. So in MBR, we have two types of partition. Number one is primary partition. It can be. Second is extended partition. Extended. Primary means what? This is the main partition. Main means it can work independently. It is not dependent on any other part. If you want to place the data, okay, just place the data. When you want to delete any partition, just delete. It will not create any impact on any other partition. That is called primary. This is main partition. Extended means what? If you want to means create partition under any partition. So that will be the extended. Extended means what? Suppose I have this partition. This is my primary. Now it's primary. And if I will create any other partition internally on this partition, I just created four partitions. So now it is known as extended. Now this primary will change to this extended partition. And these partition which is created internally in this extended partition. So this is known as logical partition. Yes, we can also logically create partition under any party, any primary party. Why we have to need this extended or logical? Because in MBR we have some limitation. If you are using MBR partition schema on your hard disk, then only you can create 4 primary parties. This is the limit. 4 primary parties. If you want more partition, then what will happen? If you will create any fifth partition, that time 3 partition will be primary, and the last fourth partition will automatically convert to extended party, one extended. And your fifth partition, which you will create, that will automatically create under this extended partition. And under this extended partition, we can create 15 logical partitions. 15 logical partition we can create. But these logical partitions depend on this extended partition. When you will delete this fourth extended partition, automatically all the logical partition will also delete. But these three primary partition is independently one. If you delete any one on this three primary partition, so it will not create any impact on any other party. Right? So this is a limitation in MBR. Next thing, in MBR, the maximum size of partition will be 2 TB. Right? Maximum partition size can be 2 TB. So that means for 4 partition, you can only use 2 TB into 4 is 8 TB. You can use this much size. That means, as we discussed earlier also, in hard disk and in SSD case, in market the maximum capacity of hard disk or SSD available is 20 TB. 20 TB. So suppose if you are using 20 TB hard disk in your system, and if you will assign MBR on that hard disk, so what will happen? Only you can create 4 partitions, right? And the size of that partition will be a maximum 2 TB of each partition. That means for 4 partition it will be 8 TB. You have the hard disk of this 20 TB, but you can use only 8 TB with this MBR. 12 TB you can't use that. 12 TB. It will not be usable. So this is the disadvantage of MBR. So earlier, when we had not any hard disk more than 8 TB earlier, so that time this MBR used. But nowadays it is replaced. So now we have the upgraded version of this MBR available, that is GPT. So before starting the GPT, just let me know, is that clear? MBR or partition schema means what is the meaning of partition schema and why we have to understand this MBR. Is that clear? Or and if you have any doubt, just feel free to ask. Yes, everyone. Is that clear?
Clear, Vijay.
As standard
Clear, Vijay.
and as
Yes.
Clear, Vijay.
okay. Now see about the GPT. So let me see. In GPT, first thing is you can create 128 primary parties. If you will assign GPT partition schema on your hard disk, so that means you can create 128 primary parties. Right? And there is not any concept of extended partition in GPT. So we don't have to need more than 128 parties. That's enough. Second thing, the size of each partition can be 18 exabytes. the exabyte. As we discussed, one 1024 PB is equal to 1 PB. 1024 PB petabyte is equal to 1 exabyte. So here we have the 18 exabyte for each partition. That means for 128 you can multiply with 128, right? And we have only 20 TB of hard disk available. That means it's enough, 18 exabyte, right? So in GPT we have this option. So nowadays on most of the PC, and we can say 99% PC use this GPT. Only few older computers you will see that option MBR. But if you will means attach any new hard disk, so you have the option. If you want to use MBR, so you can use MBR. If you want to use GPT, so you can use GPT. So we have the option there, right? And in MBR and GPT, we have one more thing. If you will see, and that is, suppose if I will take this example, if I am using MBR, this is my MBR hard. In MBR hard disk, how your data will be placed? Firstly, on first space, there is index. Index means the metadata of your partition. Which it has the information, how many partitions you want to create, and what is the size, what is the name of the partition, everything is available in this index part, index area. Then we have the bootloader. Bootloader means what? Bootloader is used to boot up your system, means which has the uh, information about the data, means which type of data available there. Means that is operating system, that is the simple data, that is the music file, and which type of data is stored on that partition. So we have that partition. So suppose the example, this example is for the MBR. Mhm. MBR. In MBR case, we can create only four partitions. So one, second, third, and fourth. That's the partition one, two, three, four. This is the bootloader for that partition. Means here is the information. And when BIOS will start to work, means when bootstrap loader will start to work, that time that bootstrap loader will check the types of data in this party, means in this bootloader. It will go to this bootloader and here it will check, okay, where operating system is placed on this on which partition, on the first partition, second, third, or fourth, which partition has the operating system. It will find. Then your physical partition is which you created and you want to use that partition to place the data. The four partitions. Partition 1, partition 1, 2, 3, and 4. There is a physical partition. Here you can place the data. Here you can put your data. This is the MBS. In GPT, what we have, if I will draw this for the GPT, this for the GPT. So here we have, first is for the protective MBR. Protective MBR. Protective MBR means what? GPT hard disk also support the MBR. Means suppose if you have any operating system which only support the MBR, like if we took the example, Windows 7 only support the MBR. Windows 7 doesn't support the GPT. Suppose if you are using Windows 7. So that time if you have the hard disk which has the GPT partition schema assigned, so that time, this protective MBR will work to means, deal with that operating system, which not support that type of partition scheme. So means GPT also support the MBR. MBR supported software or MBR supported operating system. After that, we have the same thing index for this GPT index index. for the GPT. Then we have the bootloader. So here we can create 128 partition. So we have bootloader for the 128 partition. Right? So suppose it's for 128 partition. That's the bootloader. After that, your physical partition. So 120 partitions is there. This is 128 partition. After that, one more thing is there. In GPT, we have one more bootloader. That is backup bootloader. This is backup bootloader. And what is the advantage of this backup bootloader? If you are using this GPT partition schema, and suppose your operating system is placed in this hard disk. So suppose my laptop has GPT, right? And in my laptop has GPT, and I'm using Windows 10 Home. So suppose my bootloader will corrupt by any way. It can be by virus or by suppose I just manually delete the booting file, delete the bootloader. So in that time, what will happen? In MBR case, my operating system will corrupt. It will not boot up because here only we have this single bootloader. If I will delete this bootloader, if I will corrupt this bootloader by any way, so your operating system will corrupt. But in GPT, if this main bootloader will corrupt, then your operating system will boot up using this backup bootloader. It will not corrupt. And GPT has auto recovery. Auto recovery. It will boot up using backup bootloader, and after that it will try to recover that first bootloader also. And next time you have the two bootloader. And again if it will corrupt, so again it will try to recover. Only your operating system will corrupt when the both of the bootloader will corrupt by any way. So this will be the condition. Right. So this is the GPT. So that's why nowadays in market GPT is used in every company. Now just let me know the difference between MBR and GPT.
It is clear, Vijay.
Yes, Chandra. Yes, everyone. Is that clear?
Yes, Vijay, it's clear.
Vijay.
Okay. Here also you can see the same thing which I told you. GPT, MBR both format specified physical partition information on hard disk and maximum partition size in MBR 2 TB. In UEFI 18 exabytes. MBR can have four primary partitions. GPT can have 128. MBR can store only one bootloader. GPT has a separate dedicated UEFI system partition. That means your backup bootloader also available. So this is the same thing. Now just go to this legacy and UEFI. Right. So legacy and UEFI means what? Firstly, discuss about this legacy. Legacy means what? In computing, legacy mode is a state in which a computer system, component, or software application behave in standard operation to support older software. Right? Data. Legacy BIOS boot mode is the default. So we can say if your laptop supports legacy also, so it is the this is the by default set on BIOS mode, this legacy. If you want to change, so you can change. Suppose if you want to install any newer operating system like Windows 10, Windows 8, Windows 11, so that time manually you have to enable that legacy boot. But nowadays, if you will purchase any laptop from the market, so already there you will find the Windows 10 or Windows 11, right, in your laptop. So that means if their Windows 10 or Windows 11 installed by default, so there they uses UEFI because legacy only support the Windows 7. You can use the Windows 10 or Windows 11 with the legacy also, but you will not use all the options there, use all the available features there. You can't use that. And one more thing, legacy, if you will use legacy means what? Suppose if you want to install your operating system, you have this is your disk, and when you will try to install your operating system and on your BIOS, your boot mode is set on legacy. So automatically, your BIOS will set MBR partition schema on your hard disk, and you can't change that. Automatically, it will come. If you have the second hard disk, so you can change that for second hard disk. But for that hard disk, which has the operating system installed, you can't change that MBR or GPT because it is decided by the boot mode. If you have the legacy, so automatically this legacy will set the MBR partition schema on that hard disk. But if you are using UEFI, so UEFI means Unified Extensible Firmware Interface. So it is a specification for the software program that connects the computer firmware to its operating system. UEFI is expected to eventually replace BIOS as we discussed. We have BIOS is for the legacy, right? BIOS is for the legacy. UEFI is the subsidiary of two BIOS, this is for the legacy. UEFI uses GPT, right? GPT means if you set UEFI BIOS, if you are UEFI boot mode on your BIOS, and then you will install any operating system. So automatically it will assign this GPT partition schema on your hard disk, right? But legacy will assign MBR. So that means if you want to use GPT, so you have to select this UEFI in boot. Next, UEFI also offers secure boot option. Secure boot means what? This is a feature of this BIOS mode. By this feature, it will prevent the boot time virus from loading. Boot time virus means if you have any virus available in your pen drive, in your USB drive, so it will prevent that to copy in your memory. We have the feature available in Intel processor also, but it will also prevent it. It can we work like double security. And UEFI is mainly used by Microsoft and is provided environment for fast booting. Means by UEFI you will get the fast booting environment for Windows 8, Windows 8.1, Windows 10. Means UEFI only support from this Windows 8. UEFI doesn't support any Windows 7 operating system. Right? So this is the UEFI. Now let me know. Is that clear? Legacy and UEFI.
Understood, Vijay.
As con-
Got it.
Clear, Vijay.
okay. So after that, upgrading firmware means upgrading BIOS. If you want to upgrade BIOS, so first thing is why we should have to upgrade the BIOS. Right? So we have some conditions like for the motherboard to support a new processor or other hardware, we can upgrade the BIOS, we can upgrade the firmware. Suppose you are using a motherboard which was launched before 10 years, right? And you are using that motherboard, and that motherboard supports 4i3, 4i5, 4i7. And now, as we discussed, now in the market, we have 4i9 also. So if you want to check the compatibility, so you can just go to your internet and all over the internet you can search for the new BIOS driver and you can install that BIOS driver in your system. And then you can see in some cases it can support a new processor or some other hardware also. Fix bugs and improve stability or performance of your system. If your system has any types of bug or means if you want to improve the stability or if you want to improve the performance, so that time you can also upgrade the firmware. Means time to time you have to check over the internet is there any new driver available for the BIOS for the model, and if it is available, so you can upgrade that. To change the operating system or if the current BIOS version does not support the new configuration, suppose your BIOS version is not supported any new operating system, like we have Windows 11 or we have some Linux version also here. And suppose if you install that operating system and it is not supported, it is showing some error or it is just uh, it is doesn't support with that operating system any hardware. In that case, also you can upgrade the firmware, you can upgrade the BIOS. But installation of incorrect firmware update or interruption during the update process may permanently damage the motherboard, making the system unbootable. Means we have to remember that thing. Firstly, you have to means search the correct version of your firmware, correct version of your driver. Second thing means if you are using desktop, so that time you have to check the proper power source. Power source means if you have the inverter or you have the USB, sorry, you have the UPS, right? Unbreakable power supply. So in that case also you have to just upgrade the firmware. But if you have not proper power source, so make sure don't try to install or don't try to upgrade your firmware. Otherwise, if your power will cut at the time of installation, so your system or your BIOS will unbootable. Right? So there is some